How's it going, everyone? Mafara here. Welcome to Heliopolis Radio. Today, we've been fortunate to be joined by Rick DellaRatta, a world-renowned visionary jazz artist and founder for the Jazz for Peace World Tour. Rick, it's an absolute honor to have you on the podcast. I hand it completely over to you. Tell us about yourself. What is it that you love to do?
It's a pleasure to be with you, Mufaro. Well, what I love to do really is what we were talking about off camera, and that is go to places like your continent and be with the people and meet them and help outstanding causes that help them. And I just stumbled onto something because of a poem I wrote. I wrote a poem called Jazz for Peace while I was watching the events of 9/11 from the roof of a building down this way, because I used to live down there. This is Times Square where I am now, but I used to live close to the World Trade Center. And when I went up on my roof, when someone told me there was something going crazy going on at the World Trade Center, I went on my roof and I saw everything. I saw the
Mm,
events
mm,
because someone had called me and said something happened in one building. And I went up and then I watched the other building, and I watched the other building get hit and I watched everything that took place from a box office, luxury box office seat,
mm,
because it was like on the roof. It was a great seat to see something good. Unfortunately, I was watching something bad. If there was
mm,
something good happening there, it would have been perfect.
mm,
But anyway, from that, I had a poem. Living up to the words of the poem led me to something that I didn't really even know because it didn't exist. So I ended up with something that better than what I wanted. I
mm,
mean, what I wanted looked good, and that was to play music and have fun and, bring joy to people and all that kind of stuff. And that all looked great. But what I found through following the words of the poem was actually a way to help people who are helping other people. So I would help outstanding causes. When I help an outstanding cause, if they're really sincere, and there are a lot of sincere ones, unfortunately, not all of them are, but there are a lot of sincere, outstanding causes where the people really care about making a difference for the people that they're helping. And when I help those people, I was helping all the people that they help.
mm,
So we called it helping those who are helping others. And I couldn't believe that I was doing it with my music. I couldn't believe that I could, little old me.
mm.
And I still didn't believe it until they told me. So I would get letters from them. And I said, "Are you sure?" And they said, "Listen, don't you, we're telling you, you helped us. Don't, you know what I mean? Like you can't gaslight yourself, and there's nothing you can do about this. You helped us. You know what I mean? Whether you can't get out of it, you helped us on this day. So I was like, wow, Mel, maybe I'll try it again. If it worked for one person, maybe I'll try it for somebody else. And then I started to get letters from very prestigious people, starting with the mayor here in New York City.
Uh,
And the mayor, his name was Michael Bloomberg at the time, and he's well known around the world too. And I got this letter from him, and I was actually helping a it was a old elderly facility that had basically was helped the victims of the Holocaust. That's how they started. Back in the Holocaust, they were helping the Holocaust victims when they got them over to the United States, rescued them, and were helping them. And now they wanted to expand their services to help other elderly people. And I had done a second concert. I'd already done a concert for them, and they wrote me a letter and said it was fantastic. Could you do another one next year for us? One more. And that second concert, I got a letter. And then I was like, man, maybe I should try going to other places besides, just New York where it was convenient. And
mm,
the next thing I knew, I did start getting letters from other people. I mean, eventually it was a worldwide mission.
mm.
And when I got to Kenya, where this shirt comes from, I got a letter from the prime minister.
Wow.
Maybe you know who I'm talking about, Raila Odinga.
Yes, yes, I do. I do know.
Right?
Yes.
Everybody knows him. They all say they know him. You know what? He did the right thing. He wrote a letter, his exact feelings of how he felt.
Mm,
And, I realized I was on the right track. And now, if I could just get the rest of the world on this track, I think we could do amazing
mm.
things. If we could everybody could get on this track. You know what I mean? You don't have to give me any credit for it, but just let's solve these problems.
And just to bring it back, I know we kind of went intensive into your initiative and the essence behind why you do what you do. But I guess maybe from a artistic standpoint, I wanted to ask, what is jazz in your definition? How has it evolved over the years? What are some of the nuances that maybe ordinary people like me who aren't necessarily understanding of how the music is made? What are some of the nuances that people maybe don't appreciate as much? And when did you fall in love with the art form of making jazz?
Well, jazz comes from the freedom of improvisation. So basically, when I first discovered a piano in my living room, because it had been brought there for Christmas, so I thought Santa Claus had brought it, I basically started out improvising because I was little kid, maybe I was 6 years old, I think. And I would just come up and play and I would listen and play. I'm like, what is this? What is this? And that's what I was doing. So I was doing the essence of jazz my very first second I touched a piano because I was improvising. And then as I started to study music and learn, I realized that everybody throughout time has been improvising. We even people in Africa on African instruments, people in China on their Chinese instruments. The
Mm,
great classical musicians, Bach, Beethoven, Mozart, they were great improvisers. What jazz did is because the United States was a melting pot of people from all over the world coming there, jazz was able to draw from, let's say, Africa and Brazil for rhythms, and even, other places for rhythms. They were able to bring harmony from actually from European classical music, but they borrow the harmony. So they were able to borrow these things and bring it in and make something that was truly original, America's classical music, jazz. And something they did to help communicate it is that they would take a popular song that the people knew at that time, whether it was the 1940s or 1930s, but it was a song that everybody knew. And then they would express themselves with that language in that song, and that would help the people to latch on or understand it. So
mm.
that's one of the things I was thinking of doing for you, but I don't know what songs I mean, I could play a song that and see, and then play some jazz and see if that makes any sense to you.
Uh,
But I don't know what songs you know.
So I always think to myself, if I wish I was born in any time. I know it's a very typical
It
artist,
could even
not
be
no,
a song from today. It could be a popular song. I mean, I've even done it with songs,
songs. Do
modern
you
songs.
do you
Who are
have?
some of you? Do you listen to American music where you are?
Yes, yes, I
Or
do,
is it
but
African music?
I do, but I actually am a huge fan. Not to be like a bandwagoner, but I do really like Frank Sinatra. So
Really?
yeah, his I feel
So
like
why don't I play a Frank Sinatra song?
yes, 100%. That'll be.
Now, what are some of the songs that you know? I mean, there's Fly Me to the Moon, there's The Way You
Oh,
Look.
actually, yes. You can try Fly Me to the Moon. Yes.
Let's try it. Fly Me to the Moon. Wow. All right, let's see it. And now you'll hear it. We'll actually, we're going to interview you after I play so you can say what you think you heard.
No worries.
Okay, here we go. Fly Me to the Moon, Frank Sinatra. I love it. Fly me to the moon and let me play among the stars. Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. In other words, hold my hand. In other words, darling, kiss me. Fill my a song and let me sing forevermore. You are all I long for, all I worship and adore. In other words, please be true. In other words, I love you.
Wow, you are truly a masterwork. That was incredible. I feel like I was teleported back in time. To really, really, wow, that was thank you so much, Rick, for playing that piece. It was yeah, you're truly a masterwork. Thank you so much. It was
Well, thank you. I'm so glad you like Frank Sinatra. So we were able to find that song. Once you said that, I was home to the races. I was like, oh, he likes Frank Sinatra. I can find the song that he knows, and then play that song. And then demonstrate how jazz. So when you hear it, right? It's easier to hear than it is to describe. You follow me? Because
Mm,
even the jazz greats, they used to ask him, like one jazz guy, his name was Thelonious Monk, right?
mm.
And he once said, writing about jazz is like dancing about architecture. So so in other words, it's very hard to
Yeah.
describe and put it, but when you hear it, now the description will make better sense.
It was wow. It was amazing. It was amazing. I feel like I got a first class ticket to a live performance that I should have been paying for, to be honest. Um, yeah, I could definitely feel your connection to that piano as he played. It was incredible. You kind of just zoned into the space, and it's just you can see there's a that only comes with a high degree of time, dedication, and mastery, and just true love for the art form. So,
Well, it's true. I mean, you have to put really your whole life, your heart and soul, you have to live and breathe it. And part of the reason to do it is because as you're learning about it, you start to respect the people who came before you.
mm,
They were so
mm,
great. And you feel like, I gotta pay my respect to these great people by furthering this art form that they give their lives to.
mm.
But I didn't know that you could maybe save the world through music and jazz. So, I mean, if the world ever figured that out, it's amazing what could happen.
And actually, that brings me to my next question was the Jazz for Peace World Tour. What obviously you mentioned kind of witnessing the horrific events of 9/11 kind of set you on this path, but I guess I probably should ask still is what inspired you to start it? And how do yeah, we'll just start with that. What inspired you to start it?
Well, basically what happened was, first of all, I mean, luck is when preparation meets opportunity. So anybody can get lucky and anybody can miss out on being lucky. I mean, I could have stood, a lot of people saw 9/11, but very
Mm,
few of them had a reaction in place and ready to go.
mm,
I didn't know I had a reaction because I didn't know there was going to be such a thing. I
mm,
didn't know how prepared I was. But I knew I had traveled all over the world and I had been to a lot of places, and I knew that music could reach anybody. I knew that I could reach somebody who didn't speak English with my music.
mm,
I knew that I could reach someone who was of a different race, a different
mm,
creed, a different culture, a different
mm,
religion.
mm,
Music would break through all of that. And because I was skilled and I had put so much into it, I have found myself in other countries reaching people with my music that I could never have reached if I went up to them on the street and started speaking. I wasn't going to get anywhere, you know what I mean? But with the music, all of a sudden we had a connection. We knew each other. We knew we had information. I had information about them based on their ability to relate to music. So
mm,
we had this common ground, and they had information on me based on my talent and what I was delivering and what I was bringing. Just
mm,
like all of that, all the information that we figured out when I asked you who you liked and you told me and I said, well, do you know this song? All
mm,
of that's information that you can't just get if you run into somebody on the street, you know? So I knew all that, and so I was prepared to say, I want to make a musical response to this. And I really I didn't even think that at first, but what happened was words started coming out while I was watching what was going on, and they would swirl around in you, and that can happen
mm,
sometimes. Like if you don't put those. So I was like, I better put those 5 words on a page, or they're just going to keep spinning around. And I'm going to
mm,
just be, looping 5 words over and over while I'm watching this. So I
mm,
wrote those 5 words down, and then I didn't have them spinning around in me. I got them out. And but then a few more words would spin, and like I feel like felt like I was in a washer dryer,
mm,
spinning. And I was like, oh man, I'll just write those 4 words down and get them out so I can have other thoughts. And then at the end of the day, I had just a bunch of words on a piece of paper. And I decided to call those words, after looking at them, I called the poem Jazz for Peace. And then as I tried to live up to the words of that poem, that's what led to all of the things that followed.
Wow, that's incredible. incredible. And I guess what has it been like over 850 tours? I guess what are some of probably let me just ask, what are some of the standout moments that have pretty much stayed with you throughout your life? And who are some of the interesting people that you've met that have also kind of really been pivotal in this journey, helping you move forward? Obviously, it's not a one-man thing. It really requires a team around you, and it requires individuals that are on the same type of path and goal. So,
Well, and also people trusting people. So, because of this common thread of love and the willingness to do good and the willingness to help their people,
mm,
there was a trust, that you couldn't get so many other situations. You couldn't have that kind of trust. I mean, for example, in Pakistan, I'm going to help these people.
mm,
Well, Pakistan, the first thing I looked up when I was going to go to Pakistan, the first thing I looked when I looked for information was don't go to Pakistan. They said it's on a list of places that we don't want you to go as an American citizen. It's a no-go zone. I said, well, what are you talking about? So they're telling me not to go. And I'm like, I got to go because these people are illiterate.
mm,
And I've got people in the US that follow what that's going on over there. And I had a guy contact me from another state. I still never met the guy to this day. Don't even know what he looks like. Called me on the phone. I have to tell you something. The best way literacy, I believe that literacy is needed all over the world.
mm,
And the lack of literacy is causing people to be limited and be taken over by evil forces, maybe terrorist
mm,
forces, because they can't read, they don't have any options. And I've
mm.
been following I'm going to get the best bang for my buck by helping sponsor this event
Wow.
because you're going to bring publicity to this organization. You're going to bring awareness. You're going to bring cultural, he listed all the things. I mean, the guy he knew more about me than me, I felt like. And I said, you know, um, I'm going to go because, hey, it's like, and there was a lot of trust that had to come through. Uganda, for example, when I got
Mm,
over there, it was this little kid named Moses Kigozi, I think his name was.
mm,
Just a kid in Uganda. And he
mm,
just followed our little steps. And the next thing you know, I was in Uganda stopping traffic in Kampala. Because now this is from
wow.
one little kid now, but this is why I'm telling you we might need to do this in South Africa because I almost came to South Africa. I was supposed to go there, but people wanted me to meet Desmond Tutu and all this stuff.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but they couldn't, they had some flaws in there. Do you know what I mean? Like some
Mm,
nonprofits aren't, in other words, I'm better with a pure person with very little experience than an experienced person who might be tainted from the
mm,
nonprofit industry. You know what I
mm.
mean? And so we couldn't, in other words,
Align. You didn't
you know
align
what
in terms of
you
your
know what the
values.
yeah, what's needed actually is purity and honesty and good. That's what's needed, not so much experience and expertise if it's on, if you have a bad app, you know what I mean? If it's
Mm,
not pure, I'm better off with this kid Moses Kagozi who doesn't know hardly anything, you know what I
mm,
mean? Than
mm,
I was with these other people that, seem to have a lot of knowledge and a lot of expertise, but didn't have a pure enough soul to
mm,
follow the guidelines in a way that was going to make it happen.
mm,
So, but this little kid, we just worked with him and he followed the steps and you can see the video. We have a video, Jazz for Peace Uganda, and you watch the video. They took me to the Nile, the beginning of where the Nile River starts. You know
wow.
what I mean? And they were scared to death because I had to swim in that. I was like, I can't come here and not go swimming. And they're like, what are we gonna do? What if something happens? I said, look, you guys just try to keep an eye on me and I gotta get this swimming. But basically, I mean, we ended up turns out there's a jazz club in Kampala, or there was a live music club, and they had a 9-foot sign. They made it. They made the sign. The jazz club made the sign. They know what to do. And people told me, we heard about you because we couldn't drive in Kampala. It was all everything was blocked up because of your event at this club. So my point is, it's a way to empower people, and it's a way which works because even the governments and even the powers that be are like, wow, they're doing something that would cost us a lot of money to do on our own, and we're not doing, and we can't do. They're doing something that we don't, that's one less thing for them to worry about if we can help ourselves.
Mm.
And I've been in places where I know both sides knew I was coming and they decided to back off and, hey, let this guy's come and help the people.
Wow, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And it's amazing how music sometimes bridges the gap between differences, as you mentioned. It's hard, especially if you're going to places here in Africa, our continent, there's a lot of political turmoil. And I think the
Right.
fact that you've navigated it safely and
The
managed
first
to,
one I went to was Rwanda.
yeah, very tough history that country's had. Very,
Very
very tough
tough
history.
history.
So,
And
yeah.
people were like, are you crazy? And I'm like, what do you want me to do? They want to open their country up to the world and they want me to come. So when I went to Rwanda, people wanted to take me places to show
Mm.
me this and show me that. And I'm just in the middle of Rwanda, in the middle of nowhere. And I'd never even been to Africa before.
Mm.
Like, well, I don't know. I can't really say no, but this is crazy what I'm doing here. I'm like in the middle of the night. I mean, this was crazy. And I got back, and someone told me later, they said, listen, I got to tell you something. The head of Rwanda, if anything happened to you, these people,
Yeah.
yeah, it would have been, yeah. So you were protected. You could do anything you wanted in the country of Rwanda, and nobody was gonna do anything because it was, this guy was gonna really come down on anybody who did anything. So, but I didn't know it at the time, and I was just going with the flow. I mean, I was all the way out. I saw the gorillas. I was 7 miles.
Oh, did you? Did you get to see that? That's amazing. So, oh,
They
wow.
they were like, we want to take you to see the gorillas in the wild. So
Wow.
I had like a guide. There were three people. There was and I had my percussion player with me because he's the only one that would go. The other guys in my band wouldn't. They're like, really, kick gorillas? What are you talking? Are you crazy? The percussion player was in good shape. I was in good shape because I had been skiing in the mountains before that. Because you had to hike through the mountains to find these
Yeah, yeah,
gorillas.
it's a pretty deep hike that you have to go in there.
Crazy. And I was with one guy who was a guide. So he was a guide. He knew the mountains.
Yeah.
Another guy was like he had a gun. This other guy had a gun in case, something happened with an animal or whatever. And another guy was a speaker to animals. This
Really?
guy could speak to animals. Yes, this is crazy. So we
This,
hiked, I mean, 7 miles out into the mountains to get to this specific, because they wanted me to meet a group of 21 gorillas that they call the Kamahoru. How was it? Wait a
so
minute.
I
Amahoru.
just to
That's
clarify,
supposed
this speaker,
Amahoru and
just to clarify, the
Amahoru.
speaker to animals, he legitimately spoke with animals.
I'm going to tell you, yeah. So Amahoru means peace in Swahili. That's
Mm.
the word for peace in Swahili. What language do you guys speak? You have a language down
Ooh,
there, right?
South Africa has 12 different languages. It's
Well,
massive, massive, massive. But
is
you
there
just
one that is there a main one that you speak or what?
so I'm Zimbabwean. Our language is Shona, but here in
Oh,
South
you're
Africa,
Zimbabwe.
yes,
Okay,
yes. So our
gotcha.
language is
I've
Shona.
never been to Zimbabwe either. I mean, I would love to go anywhere, but I love Africa actually. I mean, it's amazing. It's fascinating for me. But there were so many dialects. I mean, I know that in Kenya, some of these places, they told me that there were thousands of languages
Mm.
because every single tribe somehow developed their own language.
Mm.
And now they've condensed a lot. But anyway, in Rwanda at that time was, the one I just told you, Swahili, right? Swahili.
Swahili is in Kenya. I'm not too sure what the native
I
language
think
for
it was in
Rwanda.
Rwanda, but I could be wrong. You're right. I
Mm.
could be wrong. Because they also spoke not too much English, mostly French, because they were colonized by French people of Rwanda.
Oh, wow,
Yeah, so
wow,
they spoke French. If they spoke another language, it was French. There was
wow.
some English here and there, but it was mostly Swahili or their main African dialect and French. And of the main African dialect, Amahoru meant peace. And they wanted me to meet the Amahoru gorillas. So we had to go way
Wow.
out of the mountains. And when we got there, which was forever, I mean, my percussionist, I mean, I thought he was going to have a heart attack, and he was in really good shape. He was in really good shape, but he was, and even the people told me, they said, because they charge people a lot of money to see the gorillas because it
Mm.
goes to the country to help the wildlife, which I think is
Yeah.
great. They said they pay the money, but they never make it because it's so far they have to hike and they're out of shape and they just don't pay it
Mm.
and there's no refund. So the gorillas get to be left alone. They get their
Yeah.
money, and these guys at least get some exercise. That's what usually happens when you go out to see the gorillas. But I wasn't going to give up, and then neither were they. If they're like, if you're going to walk, we're going to walk. We made it to see this group, and we waited there for maybe 20 minutes or whatever, just
Yeah.
waited while this one guy went out front and stood there, and the silverback came down. So one gorilla came down. They were
Wow.
up on a high place. One giant 600-pound gorilla at least came down. Silverback, the biggest one.
Mm.
They talked for 45 minutes.
Wow.
This
I've
guy
never.
talked to that silverback back and forth, and they were like, just don't say. I said, we just whisper because they don't say anything. They don't want you to no other voices, only this one and the silverback. And there were some loud exchanges and back and forth a little bit.
What?
Finally,
I've never.
yep,
I've never heard a
finally,
story like this. It's
tell
incredible.
you the craziest thing. The silverback took off back up the mountain. Now we thought the conversation went bad. I guess we're going to go back home. We waited another 20, 30 minutes and all the gorillas came down. All of them. And then they started hanging out with us and playing with us. And little gorillas were like doing somersaults right by my feet. Little baby
Ah.
gorillas like somersaults. And it was the
Oh,
wildest thing.
wow.
And
Wow.
of course, there
Wow.
was a guy there, like I said, there was one person was armed in case something happened. But, we didn't want anything to happen. But, there was a person armed in case anything happened at any point because we're deep in the jungle.
Sheesh.
And
That
there
I've
were
honest.
plants that were biting us. I got bit on the leg by a plant like 2 or 3 times. Bit. You would go and it would just go bink like this on your leg. And we were just go and they were like, hey, there's nothing we can do about that. There's a plant that bites and we're gonna, just you'll be okay. They said it'll go away in a couple days.
Yeah, your stories. What an incredible story. Yeah. What an incredible story.
Which is what I'm telling you. See, when I walked up on that roof, it was like walking into a movie. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? Because I walk up and the whole World Trade Center, is
Mm.
in flames, and then the other one. And then I watch everything and then I see like silver people walking on the street. Well, they were all silver because when the buildings came down, it drew up so much soot that
Mm.
anyone who was in that area got completely covered with,
Mm.
you know what I mean? And they were silver. They were silver people. They looked like alien. It looked like they were like you were dressed up for a movie. It looked like you were a scene in Star Wars, the
Mm.
silver people. And they were just walking uptown because this was downtown and they didn't know what to do. They were just walking. They were just walking uptown.
Mm.
And like I said, when I started to follow the words of the poem, the movie kept rolling. It's
Mm.
been like a movie. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Rwanda, it was like a movie. I'm in the jungle with gorilla. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Kenya, I'm in the Masai Mara.
Mm.
Then I'm down by the Mount Kilimanjaro. Then
Mm.
I'm in Ghana.
Mm.
Kwame Nkrumah, you know him?
No,
You
no,
ever heard of him?
I'm not too familiar with the structures of the
Anybody in
Ghana.
West Africa, just so you know. But here's another crazy thing. I can, I on the streets here, right? The average American person, they can't tell anything. They see people, they cannot tell anything. And I'm walking with somebody once down in Chinatown, and I'm
Mm.
walking with another person, and I said, "Oh, those people up there." I said, "See those people up there?" I said, "Where do you think they're from?" So I said, "They're from Africa." How do
Mm.
you know that? How do you know? I said, I know, I can feel their energy. I can tell
Mm.
I can just tell they're from Africa. Well,
Mm.
by the time I got close to them, I could even tell what part of Africa they were from. Yeah, I can tell if you're West African or East African, you know what I mean?
Mm.
So people are just astounded
Mm.
but here's the other thing. By the time I got close to them, they knew I knew who they were. because they could feel my energy. They knew I wasn't your average American,
Mm.
because the other American people are walking past them like it's nothing. By the time I got up to them, there's like 10 of them and me,
Mm.
we just stopped. They stopped to look at me. I stopped to look at them. So they knew that I knew that they knew that I knew. You know what I mean? I knew
Mm.
that they knew, that kind of thing. We all of this information, similar to when I play music,
Mm.
information that
Mm.
because the other person, everything was flying over her head. She didn't know if they were from Pennsylvania for all she knew. You see what I mean?
Oh,
So what I'm saying is it's like being in a movie. Jazz for Peace. Jazz for Peace is like being in a movie all the time.
no, it 100% is. And obviously, unfortunately for time's sakes, I do just eat. I don't want to obviously eat too much into your schedule. But first and foremost, thank you for sharing the stories. Really, I was not even expecting that. I'm astounded still trying to process a little bit that you shared, but you've lived a
Yeah,
very,
I
very
hope I didn't eat into all of your other questions. I probably blew through all
no,
your
no,
questions.
no, no. And it's your space, 100%. You're all good.
Okay.
I just wanted to ask, I guess, how can people reach out to you? Obviously,
Well, one
yes.
one good idea is to watch your podcast, and if they know of an outstanding cause, reach out to me through info@jazzforpeace.org, which is our email address. And I'll tell you something, a great way to reach out to me first, there is an entrepreneurial website, and it's called the Enterprise Zone.
Mhm.
And you can go to enterprisezone.cc. So it's
Mhm.
not .org or .com, it's enterprisezone.cc. And if you can spell my name, R-I-C-K, and then DellaRatta, DellaRatta, and you put it in the search bar, and all these little 100-word answers, only 100 words each answer. So they would ask you questions, and you can read those little one. So you'd read great information about Jazz for Peace in only a few minutes. And then our email address is in one of the answers too. And then send us an email saying, hey, I know of an outstanding cause in South Africa. Maybe you could help them, something like that. And then that'll get me over to you. We'll hang out in person.
And that would be amazing. It would be truly. And I know that you obviously have your upcoming tours moving forward. So all the best with those. Stay safe
Thanks.
and obviously continue to promote your message. It's really, really special. To be honest, I didn't know what to expect of the interview, but I'm definitely mind blown. You are a very, 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 very good individual, and you're pure in your intentions, which is what the world really needs right now. A lot more people who are of that nature. And so the last two questions I'll ask is one, what are your words of wisdom and advice for the audience tuning in today? And then lastly,
No,
oh yeah, no, fine.
well,
Go ahead.
my words of advice to the audience, right?
Yes.
That would be, I've been doing this lately because someone told me this. Someone told me an old parable. Uh, 2,000 years old now. This is 2,000 years old, and it's called The Old Man and His Horse. And this is a story about an old man. He's got a horse, and one day the horse takes off on him. His neighbor comes by and says, old man, I just came by to tell you how sorry I am for the bad news.
Mm.
What bad news? Your horse took off on you. The man said, who knows what is good news and what is bad? And the man said, okay, well, if that's the way you want to look at it, fine by me. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. Well, okay, I'll see it. I'll see you later. So the horse gone, the guy's gone. 4 days later, the horse comes back with four other horses. So now the guy puts them all in the stable. He's got five horses. Neighbor comes over. Hey, old man, what? I just want to congratulate you on the great news. What great news? Your horse came back. He's got five horses now. Who knows what is good news and what is bad? He said, all right, I'll see you later, buddy. He goes home. Now his son, his only son too now, gets on one of these horses to try to, break it in or whatever, like they do to break the horse in. Horse throws him off, smashes him into a fence, breaks his leg in like two or three places. Is disaster. They have to load him in. He's in pain and he can't walk. He can't plow the field anymore. He can't help the old man out. Neighbor comes over. Oh Old man, I'm so sorry about the bad news. What bad news? Your son, you should see him, his leg is off. Who knows what is good news and what is bad? The guy's like, okay, that's the end. This guy is crazy. I'm going home. 5 days after that, knock, knock, knock. The old man answers the door. It's the government. What do you guys want? I'm very sorry, old man, but we have to take your son and all of the other sons of all of the people. The war has started. Everybody's got to go. Well, my son's in the other room. I don't know. Guy walks in. What the heck is this? He had legs, but we don't know if he's ever going to walk. Can't, old man, we cannot take your son. We're going to take all the other boys. We'll see you later. All the other boys go to war and die.
Wow.
And this kid with the broken leg, the worst news of all, because of the bad news, right? He lives. So my point is, if I was going to give you, because, you know, we are in perspective. We're looking at things in perspective, but sometimes who knows what is good news is? Sometimes the bad news is the good news. You follow me? And look at my situation. I was looking at the worst news on the planet, right? But the greatest news followed it, which was Jazz for Peace. So who knows what is good news and what is bad?
Wow. 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 Amazing message. Thank you for that, Rick, again. And the last thing I was going to ask is if there's a song that you feel you want to play kind of as a closing act.
I'm going to play this for you now. This is from South Africa. And I'm only going to do this if you promise me you'll check out the movie, because I think you can watch it for free online. So we have a deal?
I will.
Okay.
You got a deal.
It's called Searching for Sugar Man. And the guy's name is Rodriguez. And he wrote this song. And you should check with older people in South Africa. If you check with people maybe in their 50s or 60s,
they'll probably know it.
if they know about Rodriguez and if they know about this movie. And then if they do, share your podcast, because I'm playing the song right now by Rodriguez from that movie. And it's called Searching for Sugar Man. Here we go. Sugar man, won't you hurry? 'Cause I'm tired of all these saints. For a blue coin, won't you bring back all those colors to my dreams? Silver magic ships you carry, jumpers, Coke, sweet Mary Jane. Sugar man met a false friend on a lonely, dusty road. I lost my heart, and when I found it, it had turned to dead black coal. Silver magic ships you carry, jumpers, Coke, sweet Mary Jane. Sugar man, you're the answer that makes my questions disappear. Sugar man, 'cause I'm weary of all the double games I hear. Silver magic ships you carry, jumpers, Coke, sweet Mary Jane.
Wow. Um, something special. Something special. Rick, it's been an absolute honor. Thank you so much for coming onto the show. Wishing you a happy 2025. And as you continue to spread your message, I'll do my part. I'll try to do my best in making sure I get it on, and hopefully more people will reach out to you. And you can actually maybe come this side. That'd be amazing, if possible. But
Hey,
again,
let's cross our fingers. You never know. You never know what can happen, my friend.
never know, never know. But take care, and thank you so much. It's been an absolute
Okay.
pleasure.
My pleasure. Anytime.